Vayishlach Moshe Malachim Mikadesh Melech Adam Ka'omat Achicho Yisrael Ata Yadata Et Kolat Lo Hashem B'Sa'osle hacked into you. My name is Monty Bixer. I was born in 1926. I'm now 93 in my 94th year, and we are at present in Finchley Progressive Synagogue, North London, of which my wife and I have been members, I think, from almost the time that it was established. I was born in the East End of London, in a road called Commercial Street, not to be confused with Commercial Road, in a block of flats, call them that if you wish, called Alexandra Buildings. The accommodation we had for my parents and my two sisters were 2 rooms. One was a living room, the other one was a bedroom, and I slept on a double bed crossways with my 2 sisters until I grew older. My parents slept behind a curtain. The toilet was in the scullery, just a partition door in one corner. You open it and you can see everything. Sit there, do as you wish. And that was in 1926, June the 26th, 260626. Easy one to go. You couldn't buy non-kosher meat. You'd have to go quite a way away. And if you tell my maternal Zayda, you're from, what? You're Meshuggah. How else do you live? And everyone had milching and fleisching utensils, and the same for Pesach. Change over. That was the standard thing. You may be aware, in the early 1900s, there was a terrible pogrom around the Easter period in Kishinev and Odessa, and Jews were pouring into this country. Why this country? Because it was open door until 1905, when Earl Balfour, who was Home Secretary at the time, brought in the Aliens Act.
Your father was born in Kreuzberg and went to work as a child. When did he come to England?
After the pogroms, which I referred to. All his brothers came here, except one, the eldest one. There was a bit of money for him, so he studied music, and he went to Berlin, where he was a bass baritone in the Berlin Opera Company. Uncle Itzik. Uncle Sam, Uncle Max, and my father, Meir, came to London.
Okay. So you spent your childhood in the East End of London.
Yes.
Your father had a cheder education.
Yes.
Did you have a Jewish education in London?
I went to the cheder, the Machzika Das. Now, I wouldn't call it an education at all, because the rabbi could hardly speak English, and from Hebrew it was translated into Yiddish. And meine Tata fragte me the 4 kashers. It was all like that. And it was a very strange thing. I wouldn't call it a Jewish education. Any question one asked, wie Gott macht. That's, you understand it, but that's how God makes it. Wie Gott macht.
But the school that he sent you to was a cheder. When you say the education was important, where did you get your education?
Jews Free School. First of all, in the infants. And we lived right close to it, the infant school. And in the afternoon, they opened up little camp beds, and we all had a little snooze. And from the Jews infant school, went to Jews Free School. Jews Free School had the greatest number of pupils of any school in Europe, and more than 90% were the sons and daughters of these impoverished East European Jewish immigrants. And quite a number of them made good, all by evening classes.
What do you remember about your bar mitzvah? Where was it? What did you do in your bar mitzvah?
By then, in 1938, we'd moved to council flats in Stamford Hill. Wonderful. We had a bathroom, and when relatives came from the East End, they would bring clean underwear and have a bath. Yes, what do I remember? Vayishlach Moshe Malachim Mikadesh Melech Adam Ka'omar Achicho Yisrael Ata Yadata Et Kolat Lo Hashem B'Sa'osle hacked into you.
Wow, so that was your parasha?
That was my parasha, yes.
Where was it?
In a Federation shul in Stamford Hill, because the United was too English. In fact, very little English was spoken in the shul where I went. It was mostly Yiddish. The women upstairs. And one thing I do remember, after I'd gone through my parasha, they came down and I got wet kisses from them and they went back. And I got a few fountain pens as well.
I should hope so.
Today
too.
I became a fountain pen. You finished school at 14 then. They sent me to a place where they were manufacturing fire extinguishers for tanks and aircraft. The foreman interviewed me. Bixer, that's a strange, where did that come from? I said, my father was an East European Jewish immigrant. Oh, you're a Jew boy then? I said, no, I'm a Jewish boy. We won't need you. I stormed out, slammed the door, and I remember I broke a pane of glass. He came running after me. Kid didn't catch me. I told my father, and my father said, son, you'll probably do better than him. But here in law, you're equal to everybody else. So that was my first thing. Now, how I joined the Royal Navy, about a week after my 17th birthday, my father called me in. Son, the capitalist system creates a terrible unemployment, but the people are good. By law, we came to a country where we're equal to others. So it's a good country, good people. You're not going to wait to be called? I said, Dad, I've already gone and registered for the Royal Navy. I was interested in going to sea at the Royal Navy. Good, that was that. So I joined. I served first in the Atlantic, then the Mediterranean. And after the Germans surrendered, unconditional surrender, we could switch the radio on and hear what was going on. And I heard about the camps at times. You know, I had access, being a coder with various things. The camps, couldn't believe it to start. Trying to rationalize it, completely irrational. And then that vessels of the Royal Navy were preventing my brethren, because to me, Jew is not just a faith. As the chief rabbi, Lord Jonathan Sacks, recently said, a loyal Jew is one who identifies with his people. He doesn't necessarily have to believe. He doesn't have to believe or be a disbeliever. That's purely personal. That was stopping my people come through hell from going to the only place, not where they're going to be tolerated, but they're made welcome. I was young. Morning up, I asked permission to see my officer, put my case, called in front of him. What's the trouble, Bixer? And I told him exactly, my people have gone through hell. And I said to him what I've just said to you, the only place where they're welcomed, and I'm finished with this Navy, finished with you. He said, I quite understand. What I'm going to do it sent a signal to the Admiralty requesting your immediate release. Ahoy, immediate? Then you look, but how are you going to get back? We're in the South China Sea. And I started mumbling, right, dismissed. That was it. And 48, Israel was established in May. And it was illegal to join foreign armed forces. So a group of working class young Jewish boys suddenly going to Paris, mitten der Rinnen, late in May. We had to memorize. And I remember, you get to Paris, you go Metro Porte Maillot, you go to Rue du Cadre, pictured it in my mind, the map, where it was, and you report to Hotel Luna. And the next morning you go to 83 Avenue de la Grande Armée. There is what was called the Palestine office. And I can remember those things, planted in my mind. I don't want to get... And a group gathered there. We then went down to Marseille, spent a week there under canvas, learning a few things about commands in Ivrit. And then we boarded a vessel called the Negba, which took us to Israel. What can you do? Electrical work. We need an electrical engineer on the ship called the Haganah, the Kufesrim. It was called the Haganah. That ship was a British-built corvette, which was used for convoy work, right? Capable of 12 knots. Now, how did I manage a ship's generating equipment? This was a bit beyond me. I looked at it, tried to figure out, and I saw a brass plaque on it. The manufacturer was British. I recognized it. So I can't remember exactly how, a contact to the embassy here, or the legation, whatever it was, to contact the manufacturers, and I had a handbook came out to me, and I ran it all from that handbook, right? There was just one sea battle with an Egyptian vessel, was a frigate, much bigger than ours. No one made a hit because the main armament we had was a 1917 Italian 100mm field gun, no rangefinders, anything. It made a noise and the ship bounced. And eventually we sank the flagship, the King Farouk, with frogmen. 2 frogmen, one was the US Navy, one was the Royal Navy. We sank the King Farouk, which was a frigate, guns of victory. To us, that was like Trafalgar, Nelson at Trafalgar.
But you decided to come back to England in the end? In the end,
yes, yeah. I didn't think I would be able to settle and earn a living. I had no proper profession or trade, right?
And somehow, after having been in Israel for a couple of years, you came back to London and you met a girl from Palestine.
There was a club in Broadhurst Garden, Swiss Cottage, called the Candlelight Club, and they had the little cafe restaurant down below, and upstairs was dancing. I was not one for dancing, but I was going to meet some people in the cafe and go to the cinema near there. I went down, there was a girl there working, and she came over, and we started talking. Where are you from? I'm from Israel. I said, oh, I've been there. What were you doing? And I told her, right.
She was impressed.
That's it. On our 25th wedding anniversary, we're married now 65 years. No, on Miriam's 80th birthday, I gave a little talk about how we met, and I gave a story of Miriam's life. Miriam was born some while ago. She's coming up to 80 now, as you all know. Miriam was born in Germany. Bad place to be, because if you were a Yid, it was no darn good. In Germany, they brought in laws. In them laws, there was a clause. If you're a Jew, it's going to be real bad for you. Pa said, this country's a disgrace, ain't no longer fit for the human race. We've got to leave this place. Miriam was going, she said, I want to go where the sun will shine. I want to go where I can swim in the sea. I want to go where the sun will shine. Let's all go to Palestine. Went on like that. Then through the war. Then when that was finished, with the help of some others, she came to London to study art, and that's when romance stepped in to play its part. She was working in a cafe to earn some money. I went into that cafe, one look, wow, that's some honey. So I got my bended knee and said, honey, will you marry me? She said, mister, you want to tie the knot? I said, baby, why not? So, a nice Geschichte there. I used to go to Germany at times. The first time I went to their place, which was just outside Munich, a place called Waldstadt. I stayed in a tiny hotel. My first trip to Germany, I was boiling up inside. Every building, I look, where would I run to hide? I hated the building, I hated everything. And the patron of the hotel said, oh, you're from England. I said, I'm from England and I'm Jewish. I'm always, Miriam says I'm aggressively Jewish. And the fellow said, how we all suffered under the Nazis. I blew up. And the youngsters used to gather there every night. I was full of hatred. Came over to me and said, don't talk to them. They lie. Our own parents lied to us. They showed me another Germany. And I'm forever grateful because they took away the hatred from me, which is a poison. Miriam came from Germany. I took her to United. She had to go up top. And also, I'd seen a lot of hypocrisy. And by chance, somebody said, there's a synagogue, it wasn't here, I think it was a chapel hall down near Finchley Central. Am I right? There was in a chapel, a hall, started here. And we drifted in, and it seemed to fit in well. Then we met later, he became a rabbi, Frank Hellner. Frank's sermons, Frank had an Orthodox upbringing, why did he was a doctorate. My father, who had seen terrible hypocrisy, went away from it, came to my son's bar mitzvah here, listened to a sermon by Frank, and Frank loves me to tell him this, and my father said, if they'd have had rabbis like that when I was younger, I would never have gone away from it. I don't agree with everything, because sometimes I find the emphasis on liberal is stronger than the emphasis on Jewish. Right? And it's always liberal first. To me, it's Jewish first. And belief and belonging, how one, I say a bracha every night for the souls of my parents and my family, but how one envisages the Almighty is purely personal. I used to imagine your name should be inscribed in the book of life. A man, I know it's sexist already, with a beard and a quill pen right with a child. That is purely personal, how you envisage or feel the Almighty, right? Belonging, I know what has made me the person I am today. The influences are passed on to me from my forebears' experiences. That's what has made me the person I am. person I am.